Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Chad Himes, and I am joined today by my friend Bob Stewart. Bob, good to have you.
Hey, Chad, I'm really excited today. The guy we're bringing on, he's going to help me with my jumper. Is that right?
That's what you think, and that is how I set you up to get you here, Bob. And I finally think I've got you on a health-focused call, because not only is this guy going to help you with your jumper, not only is he going to help you with your mindset, we're actually going to talk about some health tips today that, Bob, I know you and everybody else need to hear, and now I've actually got you locked in. So,
you tricked me then. You said I was going to get my jumper improved, but I'm going to learn how to eat healthy? What?
I did tell you that to get you here. And Bob, on behalf of everybody, I have to ask you, we're going to keep you focused.
Okay.
Because I know if we don't keep Bob focused on this call, it's going to turn into a episode that's just a discussion of the current NBA players, history, all that stuff, because we are bringing on, well, I don't even want to tell you who we're bringing on. I want to let him tell you who he is. I'd like to introduce to our audience today our guest. And our guest today is David Nurse. And if you are a basketball fan like Bob, you might recognize the name because of the family connection. And heck, you might just recognize David Nurse's name because boy, he's had a heck of an impact in the NBA as well. And we are blessed to have him here today because he was listening to the podcast and said, I want to be on that one. And he's here to join us. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself however it is you want to everybody. So, David, welcome to Win, Make, Give.
Man, appreciate you guys having me on. So I get to say whatever I want to be. Like I could create myself as being the president / top actor.
Yeah.
Yes. Create your story.
No, I like that. There's power in creating your own story for sure. So I'm an MBA life optimization coach. And I know it's a kind of a different term that you probably haven't heard before. And what it really is helping NBA players develop to their highest capacity, both on court and off court. Because really, I mean, you can only be on court for 2 hours a day maximum, but it's what you do with the other 22 hours so that when you step on the floor, you're competing at your highest capacity. Now that deals with skill development, it's nutrition, it's sleep, total optimization, and the biggest piece of all is the mindset development.
Love that. Love that. Did you hear that, Bob? He said there are skills. That's your jump shot. But there was nutrition, sleep, and mindset. And I'm going to make sure we get all of that on today's conversation.
Trying to do the math. So he said only a 12th of the day is spent working on my jumper. The other 11/12ths I've got to be working on myself.
You okay with that?
That's absolutely, yeah. That's exactly right. Well, I mean, you probably want to shoot for 22 hours and then recover and do the rest of it. But
that's a long time to shoot. So, David, so you're working with these top athletes, really top 0.001% of athletes in the entire world.
Let's find out who some of these athletes are. Not necessarily, you mentioned in the NBA. So, Bob, you're right. I recognize the name because Toronto is home to me. That was where I was born and raised. Now, I moved away just before the Raptors showed up. So when I told some friends I was going to be interviewing David Nurse, they were all like, what? Wait. And I realized that you weren't actually the head coach of the Toronto Raptors, yet family to it. Yet you have had a basketball history yourself. Give us a little bit of that before Bob starts diving into how you're making these guys better, because I want the audience to know who you actually are working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just give you my quick backstory. So I poured everything I could into playing in the NBA. Now, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, cornfields of Iowa, 6'2", unathletic, never dunked a basketball in my life.
This sounds like the plot to Hoosiers. Hold on a second.
You said I could create whatever I wanted to.
Keep going, David.
No, so, I mean, my parents probably should have said, hey, play golf or tennis or something like that. But they were encouraging. They supported it. And so I got to play college basketball. Basically, I grinded my way to be able to do that. Now I'm pouring every ounce of myself into becoming better. Extra film study, 2-a-days, everything. And now fast forward to I'm playing overseas. And it sounds really cool to be like, hey, playing professionally in Europe. But it was more like the Will Ferrell semi-pro type of professional basketball where they're more concerned about drinking beers at halftime than they're actually playing the game. And here I am pouring every ounce of myself with no backup plan to be able to play in the NBA. Second division Spain, far from it. I get cut from this team. So not only are my hopes and dreams vanished, but it's taken upside down and my face is rubbed in the dirt. So everything that I've been pouring into playing in the NBA my whole life was gone. I'm sitting back on my parents' recliner chair in Kansas City where I was living for about 5 months, licking my wounds, feeling bad for myself. And my mom would always say these motivational and inspirational quotes. And usually it was like, whatever, Mom, in one ear, out the other ear. But she said one that really stuck with me. She was doing dishes at the time. And I remember she said, David, when one door closes, 4 open in an entire beachfront patio overlooking the ocean. And I never heard that before. I was like, ooh, okay. It's kind of interesting.
Quote.
Yeah, it's a different quote. I don't know if she made that. I don't know if she got that. I use it a lot now. Credit to whoever came up with it. Maybe it was her. But it showed me that everything that I poured into playing in the NBA, all this extra film work and two-a-days and how to optimize myself, mind and body, was to be able to coach in the NBA and help others be able to do that. So that's where I started my mission of becoming the best player development shooting coach there possibly was, and went on a long journey that we can continue to talk about. But it brought me to the point of 5 years of running basketball camps, living out of basically out of my car and sleeping in well-lit Walmart parking lots. Brought me to this email that I received in Australia one morning when I woke up saying Brooklyn Nets shooting coach. Now I thought that was spam, but I checked it out. It was real. Next week I'm in Brooklyn. I'm their shooting coach, helping them develop their young talent. So we'll keep going on more pivots and doors closing, doors opening, but I've been able to work with over 150 NBA players on court, some of the best shooters in the game. I actually grew up with Kyle Korver in small town Pella, Iowa, worked with Klay Thompson, Jeremy Lin, Domas Sabonis, Rui Hachimura, and just a lot of great players I've been able to be blessed with them trusting me to help them.
I can't even say his name. Hachimura and Sabonis, those are both Gonzaga guys, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I have Kelly Olynyk and Nigel Williams-Goss. Somehow I just got really connected with Gonzaga.
Is that a pipeline where you started with one of those guys and they said, hey, you got to work with David, he's really helping me out? Or they just kind of all came independently?
Kind of all came independently, which I wish. I mean, there's different agencies that have more of a conglomerate of guys, but I wish I could say, hey, I'm the Gonzaga pipeline. I've been getting a new top 5 draft pick every year.
Yeah, right. They've got a little program going there in Spokane, Washington. So, all right. So you talk for a second about like having to give up your dream. I feel like you said you spent 6 months or whatever it was kind of licking your wounds and giving up that dream. But when you finally made that pivot to, I'm going to use all them skills that I've developed over the years and I'm going to do something, kind of ancillary, right? A similar, But it wasn't the dream. Can you talk for a second about like just the psychology, like what your mindset was in giving up that dream? Like, did you still kind of have it in there, David? Or did you just say, all right, this dream is over and I'm on to my next thing?
Man, I still think I have it in me. When I play pickup basketball with my guys or playing some one-on-one, I'm like, all right, sign me up. I have a 10-day contract spotting up in the corner. Yeah. No, it was a tough realization just to have that understanding that it's not going to be actually me, that all this ability and God-given talents comes through, but it's going to be me pouring into others. So, yeah, the mindset was tough. It was frustrating. But then, like, that small pivot of the perspective to see that, hey, you know what? All of this, like, playing would be great. That'd be amazing. But I can coach for a much longer time. Like, this is this is a whole career that I could have. It's not just a 6-7 year deal, but there's so much more impact that I can have on a lot of people and for a longer time that I could just me playing myself.
So you had to assign value to that new dream that kind of made you feel like giving up that old dream was worth this new thing you were going to do. And the value assigned to that was I could help other people achieve that dream I didn't have because those guys are 7 feet and I was 6'2".
Yeah. And to the point, but it's all competition really. Like it's having the mental capacity to just want to compete every single day. And I wanted to compete. Like when I had that decision that I'm coaching in the NBA, man, it was on. I was going to be the best shooting coach in the NBA. So I went through some different steps. Like, hey, I had to look up who was the best shooting coach in the NBA. And it was Chip England for the San Antonio Spurs. So I'm like, all right, if he can do it, yeah, I can do it. So
he made Tony Parker have a jump shot. Like
Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard, so many people. Man,
and most of us have no idea these names you're dropping, guys.
Yeah, but Tony Parker's jump shot was busted when he got into the NBA. So if that guy was his shooting coach, like, but you went and so you seeked out somebody to like model how you were gonna do this, and you went and talked to Chip.
Yeah, I seeked him out, and I didn't know him at all. I sent him emails. called him, sent him handwritten letters. I even went out to Las Vegas to where NBA Summer League is just to have the opportunity to meet him. And he saw all this that I was putting in just to have that opportunity, that he kind of took me under his wing and helped me along the way. But it's the mindset of that, hey, this guy can do it, so can I. I'm not afraid to ask. And if he says no, I'm at the same spot that I started. So I might as well do it.
That's impressive, right? Going after those people. David, it's almost stalking them. I mean, you went after him, you got his email, you showed up at places he was going to be, you sent notes to any address you knew he might be getting them at, just so that your name would be something that when the opportunity came up, hopefully the light bulb went on and he realized you were that guy who has been chasing him and putting in the work, therefore probably deserving of that little bit of time to be able to sit down, talk, answer some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the testament to how bad do you actually want something. And for me, that was competition. That was me pouring every ounce I could into playing in the NBA, knowing that, hey, now my calling is to coach in the NBA. I'm not going to let anything stop me. And if it does stop me, then all that was based on being able to pivot to something else. And that's literally what happened. Like when I was coaching with the Nets, we went from 28th in the league in three-point shooting percentage to second while I was there. So it was amazing. I'll credit to the players and be able to do it. And the news and the media were like, oh, this hot shooting coach. I was 27 years old. I was full of myself at the time. And a new head coach came in. And as it happens in the NBA, when new head coaches come in, the whole staff is gone. So right there, like I thought my career was made. I thought I was set. I thought I was in the NBA for the long haul. Boom, door closed, slammed in my face. Now it was pivot to the next direction, which is, and if that door didn't close, now I literally live in Marina Del Rey. I look over the ocean, those 4 doors opening, overlooking a beachfront patio. And it's what I'm able to do now, working with players individually, speak, write books, is so much more powerful and what I love more than actually just coaching in the NBA.
All right. So I heard tons of things in there. One, you can fix Bob's jump shot.
Yes.
Okay. So, if you can get the Nets to go from 28 to 2, you can fix Bob. All right. So that's one important thing we've learned here, Bob. So yes, we have the right guy for you. 2, guys, how badly do you want it? Right. So as you're listening to this, make note of that. How badly do you want it? David was showing you, he chased after the people. Yeah. There are times where you're going to be down. He was sitting at mom's house on the sofa in the recline right there. We all have those moments. But how bad do you want it to go after it? And then, David, I got to say, I know I'm not the only person who's caught it. You must have said pivot like way too many times in this conversation. Now, let's get to that because, of course, pivot is one of the hot words, as I put air quotes around that, right? One of the hot terms that's happened with the coronavirus. We have to pivot. We have to do this. We have to do that. And your book just happens to be called Pivot and Go. Now, pivot is actually also a basketball term, correct?
Yeah. So what a pivot is when you're covered, the defense is all over you, you can't see anything, and you take a slight turn, just a small movement, a pivot, and it opens up an entire new perspective, wide open lanes in the basketball court.
Okay, so that's that move. I know a little bit about it. That's a move where my one foot can't go anywhere.
Yes.
And I can move the other foot all over the place. But as I turn my foot in all these different directions, I'm seeing a whole different view in front of me. I might be looking at the net. I might all of a sudden be looking at the bench. I might all of a sudden be looking at one of my teammates who's wide open. And what you're saying is sometimes when our dreams are stopped, we just have to make that pivot and find those other things that are open around us. How do you do that, though? That sounds perfect, yet it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's definitely not that easy. And it's the first is the understanding of knowing that it's not a big daunting change. A pivot is just a small turn in the perspective, just a 1% turn that can change your entire perspective. So it's really the understanding of that, hey, if you feel stuck in a situation, everything that you've been putting into that is not for loss. It's not, okay, all this, now I have nothing, but it was to prepare you for an opportunity to come even better than you could imagine, like my life story that I was talking about. And just understanding that, hey, it's not going to happen the exact way that you want it. It's probably never going to happen on the exact timing that you want it. But there are tools and there are ways that you can get unstuck and take these 1% steps daily forward. And that's what I do in the book. I give you blueprint tools of how to do this. Actually take these steps daily so that you're living in this ability to pretty much create your own success and not have to depend on what the world is saying your success has to be.
All right, Bob, you've been good. We've gone a few moments into the interview. Go on, ask a basketball question.
Well,
we know you're dying.
It's not even a basketball question as much as like you're training and optimizing, helping these just top-notch athletes, right? Like the top, just upper echelon in the entire world. And you were never one of those guys, right? Like you didn't make it to the NBA. Now you were an amazing shooter. I think I saw you have like a Guinness Book of World Records for some ridiculous, like straight number of 3-pointers made or something like that. So you clearly had like that skill, but you said you never dunked a basketball before, right? You never crossed over Jordan like Iverson did. Like, how do you get those guys who are like these upper echelons to kind of buy in to what you're trying to convince them to do when you haven't necessarily done what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And it's all based on trust. It's based on trust and it's based on care, which equals genuine relationships. So I pour into these players so much before I actually step on court with them. I'll watch their film. I'll have all this film created for them. So when I see them, they see all this back-end study that I did on them, and they're impressed by that. Like, wow, this guy actually really cares about me. I get to know them as more than just a player, as more than just what everybody sees them as this superhero athlete, but as a person. Like, how can I help them? That's why it's total optimization. How can I help them develop off court just as much as I can on court? Because it all goes together. So they see this care. They see me showing up every single day with energy, with encouragement, with joy, with enthusiasm. And it's what I call relentless consistency. Like, it doesn't happen overnight that they're just going to trust me, but it's going to be step-by-step relentless consistency day after day with this genuine care, this joy, this energy that I'm bringing. And then the point is, like, the great ones, like the Jordans, the Kobes, all those guys, they want to be coached. So they're looking for something. So if I can give them a small little adjustment and I can show them, hey, you're here right now, you're at the level of greatness. Like, you're great, but it's not, the easy part is going from good to great. But the hard part is going from great to outstanding, that next level. And if I can show them something that can get them excited about this will take me to the next level, then they're bought in. And then you use what worked with somebody. They see, oh, he worked with this guy and so such and such. And it builds that resume, that trust, that belief that he can help me. And it's really all comes down to genuinely caring for them and building ultimate trust.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Bob.
I bet that like coming to the table, I can, like, in my head, I'm envisioning like you doing the videos of these guys and maybe in the video you're like, see here where your elbow's out a little bit or whatever, right? Like, but you did all that kind of upfront work to get them to like you, essentially, right? Like, I'm assuming that they've never had somebody just totally go out of their way and do this for them. But the 2 hours on the court are such a small part. It's the other 22 hours. I'm really interested in what are some of the things, like, can we maybe talk about just a few of the things that you kind of get these guys doing potentially? Are there, I'm assuming there's stuff around sleep. I'm assuming there's stuff around diet.
Oh, Bob, come on. You're making this too easy for me. You're even asking the questions yourself. I love this. So,
but like, what give me something maybe out of the sleep bucket, out of the health, the diet bucket, and maybe something out of the mindset bucket that you kind of work with these guys on that are really things that, like, I don't have to be an NBA player to work into my own life.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into all three of those. So sleep, nutrition, and mindset. So first, in sleep, like, if I could tell a person the top 5 things to do to optimize themselves, number 1 would be sleep, 2 would be sleep, 3 would be sleep, and then it would be nutrition and then training. So sleep is literally like the foundation of it all.
How many hours do we need, David?
That's the thing. The 8-hour is a myth. You don't need the 8 hours. It's not about the quantity that you get, but it's all about the quality and how you get that. And I'll show these NBA players how to do it. And I'll give you a few tricks right now, a few tips that anybody can use to optimize their sleep right now, tonight. Sleeping in the cold is the most important thing you can do to get deep sleep, REM, regenerative, restorative sleep, sleeping in the cold. The ideal temperature is between 57 degrees Fahrenheit and 65 degrees. I like to have it super cold in my room. I also have a thing that I give players. It's called the chili pad, the Uller that you put underneath your mattress. You can't feel it or anything, but it makes sure your body temperatures are cool. So that's really big key. Sleeping in the dark, number 2. Like any lights, even just like little flickering lights from a VCR, that can throw off your circadian rhythm even when you have your eyes closed. So sleeping in the dark is very important. And then having a nightly routine. I think a lot of people will put a lot of emphasis on the morning routine. And yeah, that's great. It's important and everything for sure. But how do you prepare for your morning routine is through your nightly routine and unwinding. And one thing that I do for NBA coaches and CEOs who have a lot going on in their mind, just mind is racing, is write out everything that's on your mind, like things that you're thinking about before you go to bed. You write it out. So it's all there. It's going to be there tomorrow, but you don't have to take it to sleep with you, because if you do, you're going to constantly be bombarding all over your mind with these thoughts. So you write it out. It's there. It's separate from your sleep. So the sleep optimization.
Bob, we got a list. Right? The 3 things to help you with your sleep: sleep cold, sleep dark, and have a routine when it comes to it. Okay. We want to make sure everyone's getting that. Now, David, I'm going to ask you about a 4th that might make that list, and it might just fit under routine. Yet to me, one of the things I'm always coaching people when it comes to health about sleep is consistency. And what I mean by that is, look, if bedtime is 10 o'clock, go to bed at 10 o'clock, make your body start to know that that's coming. Are you counting that in your routine?
Bingo. That's huge for circadian rhythm, the consistency. And literally, if we can summarize optimization up in one word in any aspect, it is consistency, continuing to do it. But yeah, that bedtime is so important. Like even going to bed at that same time and being in a joyful mode, in a joyful situation, like watching something happy and exciting, that's going to have higher HRV, which is your heart rate variability, which is your recovery index tracker, as it would be if you're going to bed after just watching a horror movie or something like that. So unwind, have that time, that specific time you do go to bed.
I don't like watching horror movies. My wife loves it. So now I've got a reason why we shouldn't do that right before bed.
There you go. And I love that you mentioned
this is going to impact my HRV, honey, just so you know.
That's right. And I love that, Bob, you don't even know what you're saying when you say HRV. I love hearing David say this, because I moved into the Whoop band to help track all of that stuff. And it introduced me to what HRV was, which is really your heart does not beat, just to give everyone what it actually is. Your heart does not beat consistently. It doesn't go boom, 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 boom. Like you think if you want to watch on all the ER TV shows, your heart will beat boom, 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 right? It beats up, and it's those rhythms in between and that timing. That's going to be your heart rate variable that's in there that David's talking about. So there you go. There's a quick understanding of what does he mean when he's talking HRV, folks. And that really helps with your recovery. So David, we've got sleep cold, sleep dark, and definitely have a routine. And one of yours that you put as part of that routine is consistency and writing out all those things in your head just so you can get them out of your head so that you can go to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, you could be a sleep coach. That was a really good definition.
Thanks. I attempt to understand what I'm talking about before I'll usually talk out loud about it. Some people don't always agree with that, but I do. So, all right, Bob, now you understand why when you're texting me at a certain time, I'm done. I'm out, right? I mean, my bedtime is early, and that's because I wake up early. So my bedtime is consistently early. And yeah, I love being on the West Coast now because I can watch Monday Night Football, right? It was too late when I was on the East Coast for my time zone. All right, so David, boom, you said sleep, sleep, and sleep are the first 3 things of the top 5 things you could do to optimize yourself as a person. You said nutrition was number 4, which is actually the second thing on that list. So let's talk about that, because he won't listen to me. Maybe he'll listen to you, and now I can know that he's heard it. Talk to Bob and our audience about some of those nutrition things you teach these NBA people, these top performing people that you use when you talk nutrition.
Bob, I'm the outside consultant, so that's going to carry the weight of what I'm saying since you're here in chat every day.
Every day. I've tuned them out by this point.
Same issue for you, Bob. Like I deal with NBA players. They're showing up with 6% body fat, just chiseled 40-inch vertical leaps. So how do you tell somebody who's been doing it this way and being very successful with it? How do you tell them, hey, you need to make some changes? And it's one of the most difficult things to do, but it's also the mindset of them knowing that, hey, this is going to be, I'm at this great level, but what got me here is not going to be what gets me to the next step. And it's the whole thing of like when students go to Harvard, they're the top dog, they're everything. And then they get there and they realize, oh man, I'm in the bottom 50%. Same thing with the NBA. These guys get there and then they see themselves struggling with energy, with injuries, with recovery. So it's a learning process for these guys. And a lot of it is done through them being together with me and me showing them instead of just telling them. I'll bring them to this place called Air One, which is an amazing place here in LA and way too expensive, but really healthy, good food. They'll see the lifestyle that I'm living and they'll want to implement it because they see me bouncing off the walls with energy at 7 a.m. when we're in our workouts. But at the core, it's really figuring out what works best for your body. And I know that's really like broad to say, but if you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to get in better shape, don't look at just a static thing on the internet because it's going to be different for everybody. We're all different cars, as you've probably heard, but we're all take different fuel. Like for me, myself, like someone told me, hey, keto is the way to go. So I started eating a lot of fat, healthy fats. I got fat. It didn't work for me. Some people it does. It's figuring out really what works for your body. And that's what I do with these NBA players and seeing, hey, what can give them the most energy and the best recovery and really function at the highest capacity that they can every night when they step on the floor.
So David, hang on.
You're doing it very specifically with these guys, obviously, because like you said, you're just trying to get that last 3% out of their body. They've already gotten 97%. Give me some stuff, though, that most of us listening aren't NBA.
We're not. And hang on a sec, Bob, because I want to make sure that everyone did hear what David's saying. He's not saying go do these diet programs. Now, there might be one that is a guide for you, but you're saying it's a lifestyle change. So it's not, oh, I'm going to do keto for 60 days, or I'm going to go pescatarian, or I'm going to go do Atkins, or whatever it is. You're saying you're making a lifestyle change. Now, if it happens to follow the Whole30 or the keto plan or something like that, then great. That's you. It's not everybody, but don't look for a diet to fix this.
Yes, absolutely. And to hit some minute detail points, I'm really big on carbs after workouts. And that's when we're going to get the most of it, when your glycogen stores are ready to just suck it all up. And I mean, figuring out what their caloric intake needs to be based on their metabolic rate. So I'll have them take their metabolic rate at resting and with exercise included and figure out what that is. Now we got to figure out, hey, do they need to add more muscle to them? Do they need to lean up? Then we might put in some different types of protocols of some intermittent fasting protocols. And there's different details like that. Metabolic rate, I think, is really, really important, being metabolically flexible, changing your body from just burning these just carbs to burning everything, being a fat burning machine, really, which will drive the energy. But also, man, a lot of it with these guys too is you would think they're really, really in depth, but they still think the carb loading with the pasta, or like they think just eating grains and cereals are great for you, but it's showing them swaps that they can make and making adjustments. So it's not about having to eat chicken breast and broccoli every single meal to be healthy, but it's showing them different things that they can put in place. As like, instead of drinking soda, they drink Zevia now, which tastes the same, but it's not bad for you. And showing them different types of swaps that they can do to implement into their lifestyle.
So Bob, before you ask a question, okay, that metabolic rate, I'm going to break that down to English for our audience again. Nice. That's if you woke up in the morning, stared at the ceiling and did not get out of bed, didn't even reach for the remote control. Your body is still going to burn calories just doing nothing. So what David's talking about there are tests you can do. There's things like, again, the Whoop band that track that kind of stuff. And you can actually see how many calories am I going to burn by doing literally nothing today.
Yeah, I need to know that number.
Then you know, and now I'm burning 500 calories in a workout or something like that. Yet you go out and you're saying, I want to lose weight. I'm going to eat 1,200 calories because that sounds, if your body needs 3,000 calories in a day, it's not going to help you lose weight. You're actually going to put yourself into a starvation mode. Your body locks down, and we don't need to get into all the details. But David, let's give Bob some tips on better nutrition because I've seen the way he eats.
Sure. Hey, you could also be a nutrition coach. Man, you are very well versed. You are the total optimization king yourself.
I'll come to work with you, David.
He needs to work on the jump shot. I've seen it.
Bob, if you have the natural talent, that can carry you a lot longer ways too.
All right. I'm good.
So, the 3 tips I'm going to give you for nutrition, which is just 3 really powerful pivots, adjustments that you can make that can change the game for yourself, for your energy, your overall health and well-being is number 1, avoid processed carbs. So it's a good real rule of thumb. If it comes from the earth, it's going to be good for you. If it's processed in a bag with all this other, if there's a ton of ingredients on there, probably not the way to go. So that's 1, avoid processed carbs. 2 is avoid sugars. Sugars are the killer. That'd be your sodas, those type of things. Now, fruit gets vilified. Fruit's fine. If you're going to eat fruit after a workout or as your carbs, that's fine. But not the sugars of the sodas and all the candy and everything like that. That will kill your gut, and your gut's connected to your brain. There's a lot of things that go in with that. And number 3 is taking out bad oils, PUFA oils, polyunsaturated fat oils, which would be your canola oil, your vegetable oil, mainly the oils that restaurants cook with. So whenever you go to a restaurant, be like, hey, are you using extra virgin olive oil or grass-fed butter? Like, that's where you want to focus on, or coconut oil, avocado oil, and making these oil changes, because these oils really, like these bad oils, they could be the worst thing for you. They absolutely tear up your gut lining. That's why a lot of people have gut issues. And that, like I told you earlier, the gut is connected to the brain. And if you can take those 3 things out, the processed carbs, the sugar from sodas and stuff, and the polyunsaturated fats, you will be a machine, Bob.
All
right, David, talk about, before we finish nutrition here, let's just hit on this. What about water? Obviously everyone should drink water, and I tell Bob and Ben and anybody who will listen, it's half your body weight in ounces is the minimum in water. What do you say about water? And do you put those little packets in to give them some flavor, so people like Bob will be like, all right,
I actually like water. I don't mind drinking it. Just 100 ounces of water to me in a day sounds like a lot.
Yeah, you know what? So I count some of my water from coffee, from tea, from different beverages like that. 100 cans seem daunting, and I never really put like an exact number on it. But with any meal, drink afterwards. It's not always the best to drink while you're eating that meal, because it messes up the digestive process. Not drinking ice cold water, because also the room temperature water is better for the digestive process.
I do that.
But there's a thing that I love. I put in my morning drink, I'm going to have myself being optimized. It's lemon. I'll put lemon. I'll put pink Himalayan salt in there. I'll have apple cider vinegar. And I'll have Element, LMNT, which is an electrolyte, not Gatorade. Gatorade is not good. Gatorade is straight sugar, but it's an electrolyte.
Sugar, bad.
Full of salt that'll give you back these minerals that we miss throughout the day. So I kind of start my day off with this power-packed drink that I know. And always when you wake up, that's when you should definitely rehydrate. That's when you should drink the most water you possibly can. And then there's no magic number for it. It's just based on sporadic, like how you feel. And I know we all know, like, if your pee is really, really dark, then you probably need more water.
All right, so we got the nurse aid there. We're not going to give you the balance of salt and lemon. So, Bob, you have fun figuring that out. It'll be some interesting flavors for a while. All right, Bob, you've been a good boy. You've learned about some sleep. You've learned about some nutrition. Before we jump into the mindset stuff, go on, ask your basketball question.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
Favorite player growing up? Steve Nash, for sure.
Steve Nash.
So I could see myself being Steve Nash. Obviously, he's a 2-time NBA All-Star. He's a lot better than me. I think I'm a little better looking than him. But, I mean, he was literally everything that I wanted to be as a short, white, unathletic guy from Iowa.
You could see yourself in him. I think – so I have a 13-year-old son. I've got a 2 and a 4 and a 13-year-old. The 13-year-old loves Seth Curry, right? Like, a lot of kids out there love this guy. And it's my belief so many people are attracted to him because they can see themselves in. He's like us. You're 6'2", I'm 6'2". Like, anybody could go out and be Steph Curry and shoot from half court or whatever, right? So I feel, you tell me though, you saw yourself in Steve Nash. Like, he was somebody you could identify with. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the Steph Curry comment there.
I said Steph. I'm sorry. I said his brother. Steph Curry is what I meant. I said
Steph. Yeah. I mean,
sorry.
Looking at Steph would be great too, but it's an amazing thing what Steph has done, giving so many people hope they don't have to be 7 foot and super athletic, and they can be like that. But it's also a downfall. Catch 22 is they're just going to go out and start chucking up threes from half court, all these crazy moves. I tell people, when you've shot as many shots as Steph has throughout his life, then you can do what Steph does. But until then, you're focusing on the fundamentals.
Yeah. I don't know. Magic Johnson was my favorite player growing up. And there was nothing I saw in him that I could relate to. I just liked the Showtime Lakers. Like, I liked the ball going up and down the court. And when I was a little kid, basketball was way different, right? Like in the 80s, like they beat each other up and a lot of slow grinding games. So I just liked the fast pace up and down that the Lakers played back then.
All right. So now that Bob's got his basketball out, let's go into mindset. Now, David, you wrote a book, and I want people to understand. They can go on Amazon, right, or anywhere books are sold, right? And they can find, it's called Pivot and Go. And it's like a 30-day program that's going to help me with all of these things and stuff like that. So talk to us a little bit about mindset and some of those tips. And then we're going to find these things in this book. It's laid out day by day by day that I could do like almost an exercise every day to help my mindset and my whole life improve. What are some of those tips? You've given us some sleep. You've given us some nutrition. Give us some mindset tips that I know are in this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, it is a 29-day mindset blueprint, which 28 days is the generally accepted term to form a habit. And habits, routines are great, but we want to make it a lifestyle. So on day 29, it's your choice to make it a lifestyle, what I call a rhythm. And there's tools at the end of each chapter that will literally show you how to take this next step in different areas of your life. But one of my favorite ones that I have in the book and that I talk to companies about is your hands, because your hands are always with you. And I'm really big on having actionable tools. I love when people talk about the whys and the purpose, but that's great. But there's a huge disconnect between knowing and actually doing. And your hands are always with you. So this is a tool you can use. So the first thing you do when you wake up every morning. So right now, if you're listening to this, look at your hands. This is what you do when you wake up in the morning. You look at your hands and you see all these calluses, the toil that you've been through, everything that you have gotten through to this point, you have gotten through. So the next difficult situation, you're going to get through that too. Then you imagine the most confident person in your life, whether it's a parent or a mentor or a teacher, and you see their hands as your hands as their hands. If they can go through it, you can go through it. Like I thought with the Chip England shooting coach, if he can do it, I can do it. So you've got your confidence in your hands when you wake up in the morning. Then at some point, you are going to walk past a mirror. Most people do it very early on in their morning routine to brush their teeth, to wash their face. Now that mirror is what I call the foggy mirror. We all wake up with self-doubt, with the imposter syndrome to some extent in us. All of us do. And now that foggy mirror is the self-doubt. We have the option to leave it foggy and live in that self-doubt and live in what the world is telling us, our expectations put upon us that we need to be, or we can take those confident hands, action step hands, and we simply make the motion of wiping away the foggy mirror, clearing that mirror. And this gives you a lot of power subconsciously in these affirmations that you can wipe it away. No matter what self-doubt, it's wiped away. So you've got your hands, your confident hands you look at in the morning, you go by that mirror, you wipe it away, you're no longer living in the self-doubt. Now, every room that you enter through the day, keeping with our hands, every room that you enter, you look at your hands and you say the word serve when you go in that room. So you are focused on how can you serve the people in that room as opposed to what's in it for you. Because if we're constantly looking at what's in it for me, we're going to drive ourselves nuts. We're never, even if we hit high levels, even if you come to Steve Jobs of Apple, you're going to not have any real true joy. So saying the word serve, number one, takes a lot of pressure off yourself because it's not about you, but it's also for a bigger purpose. And this is a trigger to your subconscious that you're going to step in that room and serve the people in that room. So you got your service hand, your confidence hands, wiping away the self-doubt hands, your service hands, and these hands are also hands of encouragement. My favorite player, Steve Nash, gave 239 high fives a game. 239. Like, they tracked that.
Wait a minute. Did you count that?
I didn't, but they track that stuff. They got so many analytics people on their teams, they count that. And he was the best teammate anybody ever said. He was always encouraging, always bringing people up, always supporting and encouraging people. And we can do that too. We have these hands. We can give high fives, or right now and this time air high fives or Zoom high fives, or use those hands to send out an encouraging text or make a little video. I do it for 3 people every morning. And I'll just send out a video to them. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Maybe I haven't talked to them for 2 or 3 months. But I'll tell you what, the difference it's made in some people's lives, just being able to hear that message, is enormous. And we all have that potential to encourage and pour into others. So right there, just with your hands, which we all have on us at all times, that's a tool, an action step that you can use that's in this book, Pivot and Go.
All right, wait, real quick, Chad, because before Chad even gives me a chance, didn't Steve Nash just get hired as the coach of the Nets? Like, maybe the universe is lining up for you to come back and coach with your childhood icon.
You know what? It's really funny you say that, because I'm very close with Jacques Vaughn, with the GM, with the assistant GM. Steve Nash is an optimization nut. So we're definitely in talks.
Like Jacques Vaughn, the old point guard from from Kansas, is he the?
Yeah. So he's the head assistant. He was the interim head coach out there. He's an unbelievable human being. So we're in talks for consulting on this mindset development, total optimization.
And then we can say you heard it here first. All right, perfect. So we're breaking news on the Win, Make, Give podcast as things happen. We'll be watching for it to happen. All right, so David, I'm going to randomly flip to a page in your book. I have your book. I got a copy of your book, and I'm gonna just flip to a section here and see what comes up. And I'm on day 16. I got to scroll back here. It says, I love some of these chapter titles, right? It says the 80.5-pound stone on the bottom of the ocean. I don't know why I opened to that one, but that's the one I opened to. So talk about that. What the heck does that mean?
So that means that's a Kyle Korver story. And Kyle he's an NBA player who was really like all he could do was shoot. He focused on his strengths. All he could do was shoot. It was great.
Sat in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. He realized that was his ticket, and he wanted to constantly improve. And at a course in his career, realized like, hey, this is about as good as I'm going to get at shooting. I'm going to continue to fine tune that, but now I got to take it to the next step. As I got to develop my mind to the highest level. So every summer he would do something so crazy challenging that he knew if he could get through that, he could get through any situation that ever happened on the floor. And this one just was, he was pushing an 82.5-pound stone on the bottom of the ocean up there by the Santa Barbara Islands up there where you guys are kind of at. He pushed it for 2 hours on the bottom of the ocean. And it was telling him that, hey, this is normally what people would look at is how am I just going to survive this situation? But instead of just surviving, he pivots these into thriving situations. So that's the main takeaway from that chapter, told through the story of Korver pushing himself to the limits of knowing that no matter what happens to him, he's not just going to keep his head above water and he's not just going to survive, but he's absolutely going to use it for a thriving situation. So now when he steps on court and something's going crazy in the game, and this is nothing. I was pushing an 82.5-pound stone on the bottom of the ocean in shark-infested waters. It's nothing.
Interesting. All right. I don't know that I'd be pushing an 82.5-pound stone on the bottom of the ocean with shark-infested waters. Yet diving with shark-infested waters does sound like it could be a fun thing. All right. You mentioned this really early in the call. You mentioned something about 1%. I heard that shot off and made my notes here, that 1% mentality sort of thing. Talk about that, because if we can get 1% better every day, I mean, the world is our oyster, as the saying would go. It's going to take some time to get there, but talk about how do we improve ourselves 1%? Everyone understands good to great, but you said we got to go from great to that next level.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you asked that question. That's actually the title of my next book. Is going to be the 1% rule, 99 tips to improve by 1%. But it's so powerful because it's not like people will look at goals and they think, how can I get to that goal? But yes, set the big macros, but understand it's about the micros. It's the daily steps. It's a relentless consistency that we talked about. And if you can go to bed at the end of each day knowing that, hey, I improved in some area of my life, I check that up as a win. And you continue to stack those together, these 1% steps of improvement, whether what area of your life it's in, but you have these stacks of improvement. And the most powerful thing there is the compounding effect. Like literally momentum builds momentum. And now the part that most people struggle with is if something isn't going right, like let's say they're trying to lose weight and they haven't lost weight for 14 days and then they have some binge meal and they fall off the horse. They quit. You're going to fall off the horse, but you've got to get back on, because there's never been just a straight line trajectory to your success. It's always up and down and curving like the stock markets. It might take a crash, but it's going to come back up. And you have to understand that it's like, one of my favorite quotes is, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Like, nothing is ever going to happen overnight. And if it does happen overnight, you're not prepared for it. You haven't built that foundation. You're not ready for it. You're going to crash and burn like I did at 27 with the Brooklyn Nets. But if you put in that time, like my uncle did with the Toronto Raptors, 27 years of being a head coach before he got his opportunity in the NBA to be a head coach. Now, he coached in countries you don't even know play basketball, like England and Belgium and all over the place. He's taping players' ankles. He's popping popcorn at halftime for the fans. Like, he put in all these years of preparing for this opportunity. He wins the NBA championship in his first year as a head coach. Everybody looks at it as like, wow, lightning struck in a bottle. He got so lucky. No, he'd been a coach for 27 years. So these 1% steps led him to this. And we all have that power. Like, we wake up every morning, what I call the superhero power of choice. Like, we have the choice to say, hey, I'm going to improve today. And it becomes infectious, it's infectious. Like, you continue to improve. You're pouring into yourself 1% so that you can pour into others 1%. And just the whole overall just atmosphere of the 1% mindset is so powerful.
Sounds to me like, from all the stuff you've sent me, and then I've been doing my homework, you've got this 1% rule, you got these blueprints, and you got pivot and go. You got something called the 7 steps for unshakable confidence. And Bob, you can just feel all this stuff coming off David. I'm going to just put it out here right now in the middle of the episode. I think David's got to come back, because I think there's a part 2 to this. Where we're gonna can we get you to agree to come back for part 2?
Absolutely. You just let me know when. Do it.
All right, we will schedule a part 2.
Wait, what was it? 7 steps to unshakable confidence?
Oh yeah.
Let's do that one.
Yeah. I that sounds like a good one, right? So we won't dive into those 7 steps right now. We're gonna so don't touch on that, David. We're gonna make a whole episode out of that. I think that's gonna be fantastic. Yet I'm looking at kind of my clock and knowing we're coming up near a hard stop here. And Bob, I know you probably have some other questions, but I got to ask David this who's the best? I mean, I know you got a personal
all time.
Who's the GOAT when it comes
to
basketball?
Yes. This can get an ongoing debate for hours and hours.
No, there's one answer. It can't.
It's LeBron James. LeBron James is the greatest player of all time, and when it will go down, when it's all said and done, because of the impact he had on the teams, the different records that they had. When he left Cleveland was the worst team in the NBA. Miami won the championship. He leaves Miami back to Cleveland. Cleveland wins a championship. Like, his impact on others to make others better is the best.
So you're penalizing Michael because he stayed on the Bulls?
No, I'm penalizing Michael not because of his fault. He's the most talented player and the most fun player to watch and change the game more than anybody else. But he also had Pippen, he had Kerr, he had Rodman, he had Phil Jackson. Like, and that's credit to him for building that team around him. Like, that's really, really smart. But he had every single piece at the highest level that you need.
You mean credit to Jerry Krause, who got murdered back then, but he's the guy who put that team together, and they all hated him.
It's crazy, right? That whole documentary that came out, he made some amazing moves.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. So give him one more question before we wrap this episode up with David, and then bring him back in the near future here for the 7th.
When are we? I don't know when this is going to. Okay, actually, this will probably go out, the actual podcast. I don't know. It'll either be like right around the finals, this crazy time we're having, like the NBA finals in September, which is just throwing my brain off. I'm having a hard time watching basketball in August and September, but it's cool. But who's going to win the title?
Yeah, I would have said the Raptors if they were still in it, but they've been eliminated. So I'm going with the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat?
Miami
really?
Heat. I'm a little biased cheering for them too. Eric Spoelstra is a real close friend of mine, but I just really love how hard they play. They have all the pieces that you need. They have shooting, they have defense, they have a go-to guy. I think they fit that mold, but I mean, the LeBron factor is real.
You just said LeBron was the GOAT, and now you're going against the Lakers.
Well, but if the Miami Heat
is on the Lakers,
that might
right?
be one of the most unexpected NBA champions that we've had in a really long time, right? But they destroyed the Bucks and looked really good doing it.
You know what's funny about it? It's because of the bubble, they're able to do this. The home court advantage is no longer existent. Yep. And now it comes down to what team plays the hardest, what team is the most physical, because you're not going to ride the energy of anybody else. And the Heat have really done a great job at that.
Well,
all right. So
there it is. The Miami Heat would be one of the most shocking NBA champs.
So hopefully by the time this episode goes live, Bob, we can say that David called it here and the Miami Heat won. And we can also say that, and now he's the shooting coach again for the Nets.
No, he's the life optimization coach.
Coach for the Nets with a little shooting on the side. Bob, are you willing to go on record for who you think's going to win that we can hold against you, whether you're right or wrong when this airs?
Let's go. I'll go with the Lakers, right? Let's just LeBron, as long as LeBron and Anthony Davis stay healthy, I think that's he's putting his caveat. The Vegas odds. I'm sure they're probably up there with the Vegas odds. All
right, so David, let's close this out, knowing we're going to bring you back, knowing we're going to go have another opportunity. But let's sleep, nutrition, mindset. Those are the top 5 things anybody can do to optimize themselves. But leave our audience with one last takeaway from either this conversation that you want to go back to or something that did not even come up in this conversation. Leave our audience with one more thing to optimize themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, it's the self-belief, and it is the self-awareness, confidence that we'll talk about in the next episode. But that is the true foundation of everything. Even with, yes, sure, you have to have sleep, you have to have nutrition, the right training, but it all works hand in hand with the mindset. And it all comes back to the foundation of, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe you have a God-given ability and a gift to share with this world? Or are you the ones that hold us back? Our biggest defenders, our biggest Pat Beverleys is ourselves. We're the ones pushing ourselves down. So I gave with the examples of the Chip England and becoming a shooting coach, you can take these risks. You can take these chances. If you fail, that's not just a way that you can learn and grow. That is the only way, in my opinion, that you learn and grow. And that's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to know that any risk that you take, you're going to come out the other side better than you went in. So I just leave people with knowing that, hey, you have a reason and a purpose. You have a gift inside of you. Some of us might be seen on TV or have 1 million followers. Some of us might have 2, but it's not weighted on what's more impactful. If you impact one person's life, literally one person, that could be the person that impacts 1 million more. And just by that whole compounding effect, you've impacted over 1 million people. So having that understanding and constantly affirming yourself in this and having them written out in places throughout your house that you can constantly see this and put your mind back in this affirmation of deleting these negative thoughts, increasing the positive thoughts, I think is very powerful and what I'd like to leave everybody with.
Wow, love it. Well, I just love that you said Patrick Beverley, and I went right through chat. I didn't even know what you were saying there. But I got you, buddy. I got you.
Yeah, I'll be finding Bob after the recording and saying, "What the heck did that mean, Bob?" And for everybody else in the audience who's now Googling that or something, maybe we'll have Bob explain it on the Facebook group for us. David, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, folks. You can check out Pivot and Go on Amazon or anywhere that you get your books written by David Nurse to check it out, find out a little bit more. We hope that you will, impact just that one person by sharing this episode with them. So we're going to challenge you to send this episode to a friend, to a family member, to a client, to someone who you know is going to hear a message and needs to hear it from that outside source, and let David be that voice for them today. You can always share our podcast by sending people to winmakegive.com, or you can have them just text the word podcast to the number 59559. That's right. Just text podcast to 59559. They'll get a link sent right to them. Remember, always wash those hands. And until our next episode, make sure that you do good.